Hello and welcome to the 8 Keys to Naturalised English Speech. This is the first of our weekly lessons for the actual subscription package. So if you're watching, you must be one of the first subscribers or first people to check out what we're doing. So thank you for that. I'm finding this really strange. I'm doing this on a computer that I haven't before, and the webcam's actually at the bottom of the screen. So I'm trying not to look to the top because that's where I've seen it in the past. So forgive me if it looks odd. So with this weekly lesson, now what we'll be doing is we'll be focusing specifically on that key. Now, the main point of these lessons is for people to actually ask questions or ask for feedback. Currently, we don't have that set up technically. From next week, we will. We'll have an actual channel where you can I'll be able to hear you and you can speak to me and I can give you feedback on the way you're saying the phrase. For now, you can write in chat, but obviously I can't hear you, which is the main point. So this lesson today will be shorter than normal and it won't be quite what it normally will, but I'm just going to explain the process to you so you know for future weeks. So what will happen is I'll tell about the key. So this week, the key is the E sound. We're talking about the short E sound, I, and the long E sound, E. And we'll be talking about the difference. Now, if you're subscribed to the 8 Keys to Naturalised English Speech, you will have listened to the videos about this and you've probably heard some of my daily lessons where we talk about situations where you use the long E sound and situations where you use the short I sound. And you will also know that it's really important to say them differently because they are completely different sounds which equal completely different words. For instance, I could say the word sheep, as in the animal, sheep, or if that's the long E, or if I use the short I in the same sounding word, it's ship, which is boat. Two completely different words. So it's really important to get the vowel sound right. So each week in these lessons, I'll revise the thing like I just did. You can come in and speak to me and I'll give you feedback on your speaking. And I know that can be a bit scary to do with others listening, but it's really good practice. And the braver you are, the more you're brave to try, the more you'll improve. In the first key, I talk about that because I'm learning Chinese, so I know how hard it is to learn another language and to think about the pronunciation. And I've been learning Chinese for years and I'm aware my pronunciation is not very good. And when we lived in China, because I used to live there, my husband, who was also learning Chinese, was much braver than me to go out and practice and speak to people. And at the start, I wasn't brave at all. I was always too scared to speak up because I was afraid of getting it wrong or sounding silly. And consequently, he learned so much faster than me. And since then, I've caught up, but it took a really long time. And it was all because of this fear of sounding silly. So I encourage you to come on the chat from next week and practice speaking. Don't be worried if you sound wrong. It's the only way that you can learn. So for today, since we don't have the ability for me to respond to you, I'm just going to go over some more tongue twisters with these sounds. And if you're listening in, either now or if you watch this lesson later in replay, you can practice the tongue twisters after me. I'm just going to open them up in this other window here. Okay, so here we go. This first one is using both the long and short sounds. Denise sees the fleece. Denise sees the fleas. At least Denise could sneeze and feed and freeze the fleas. Now, like a lot of tongue twisters, this isn't really making a lot of sense. Now, actually, what I'll do is I'll actually copy this into the chat here so you can see it. Sorry, that would have been a better idea. Okay, so you can read along if you want to. So let's have a look at it again. By the way, Denise, if you haven't heard the word before, it's a woman's name. Fleece is referring to the wool of a sheep. Fleas are those little insects that bite you. They're mainly animals. And a sneeze, is a sneeze, and freeze, is if you put something in the freezer and it freezes. Okay, let's say this again. So if you're listening along, try and say it at the same time as me. Denise sees the fleece. Denise sees the fleas. At least Denise could sneeze and feed and freeze the fleas. One more time. Denise sees the fleece. Denise sees the fleas. At least Denise could sneeze and feed and freeze the fleas. So most of the sounds here are the long E, apart from there's a short I in Denise. So just to mix it up. Okay, the next tongue twister. I'll just open it up here. I'll copy this into the chat again so you can follow along. Okay, this is a much shorter one, easier to follow. Now, in this case, Sheena and Sheila are both women's names. Sheena leads, Sheila needs. Can you say after me? Sheena leads, Sheila needs. Now, this is hard because it's also reversing the O and the N sound. So that's how it's a really good tongue twister, but it also has the long E sound. Let's say it a few more times and we might try and get a little bit faster. Sheena leads, Sheila needs. Sheena leads, Sheila needs. Sheena leads, Sheila needs. Sheena leads, Sheila needs. That's actually quite difficult to say. Okay, our next tongue twister. And if you're finding it really hard to follow these, if this is too fast, you can always come back later and practice them, like replay this lesson, practice it after me, and or at the same time until it's easier to say. Now, this is a bit of a longer one. I've just entered it into the, won't let me enter it in. Maybe I'll have to do it in bits. Okay, let's try that. Sorry about that. Okay, there's the first bit. And then we'll try entering the second bit. Okay, so this is in two sections. Now, this is actually from a Dr. Seuss book. If you've just started the keys, where we are in the timeline where I'm doing this lesson, you won't yet have done the Dr. Seuss first, but that will come later. But if you're watching this later in replay, you may very well have done the Dr. Seuss first. Dr. Seuss is an English writer. Well, he's passed away now, but he's very famous for writing a lot of books that have a lot of really interesting rhyme, and consequently there's a lot of things that are really good practice to say if we're trying to practice our speech. Okay, so I will read this. So there's the two messages there are part of the same tongue twister. Through 3 cheese trees, 3 free fleas flew. Let's say that first bit again. Through 3 cheese trees, 3 free fleas flew. Next bit. Freezy breeze made these 3 trees freeze. I'll repeat that sentence again. Freezy breeze made these 3 trees freeze. Next one. Freezy trees made these trees cheese freeze. Freezy trees made these trees cheese freeze. Last one. That's what made these 3 free fleas sneeze. And again, that's what made these 3 free fleas sneeze. Okay, I'm going to say the whole thing through slowly and you can follow along as best you can. Through 3 cheese trees, 3 free fleas flew. Freezy breeze made these 3 trees freeze. Freezy trees made these trees cheese freeze. That's what made these 3 free fleas sneeze. Okay, that's a more complex one. You can work on it. And we're going to just do one more. This is a 1 sentence short one. You'll be happy to hear. I'm just going to copy it into the chat here. Okay, short one. The Queen in green screamed. And again, after me, the Queen in green screamed. One more time. The Queen in green screamed. The Queen in green screamed. So those are our tongue twisters for today. And you can practice them. The more you practice them, the easier it will be to say. I'm not sure if there's anyone live watching at the moment. Is there anyone live watching? I think there's one person. Did you want to say anything or add anything? Any questions that you have? Oh, sorry. Okay, you found a tongue twister with the short it sound. Thank you. All right, we've got one more. Okay, we're going to say this one from one of our watchers. There was a minimum of cinnamon in the aluminium pan. Okay, lots of short I sounds happening here. So if you're following on, try and repeat this. There was a minimum of cinnamon in the aluminium pan. So if you haven't heard any of these words, cinnamon being the spice and aluminium being a type of metal that the pan is made of, there was a minimum of cinnamon in the aluminium pan. There was a minimum of cinnamon in the aluminium pan. One more time. There was a minimum of cinnamon in the aluminium pan. Thank you for that. And that's it for today, basically. So like I said, from next week, we'll have the ability for you to actually talk to me and I can hear you and comment on your speech and give you feedback and methods and things to do to improve your speech. So I hope that some of you come along to that so that we can have a bit more interaction. And in the meantime, if you're working through the keys, if you've subscribed, I hope that you're enjoying them. And if you haven't subscribed, if you watch this and you're interested in subscribing, you can go to our website, the 8 Keys to Naturalized English Speech, and you can sign up. The first month is a free trial, and if you don't like it, you can not continue. But if you do want to continue, you can go on through the whole of the keys. So the 8 keys have been designed by Dr. Lee Logie, and after many years of working with people who have spoken other languages as their first language, who are learning English, she's developed some keys of specific points that often people struggle with in their pronunciation of English that you can use to improve your English. And yeah, you can subscribe. Each month you get a new key and you get daily video lessons by me and you get to participate in these online lessons. Cool. Oh, thank you. And thanks for coming. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Okay, great. Well, yeah, I'll hopefully see some of you next week. Bye-bye. Have a good week.